Back with the WMAY morning news feed. Now time for you to chime in at 217-629-7970. I'm Greg Bishop at 811, and I want to hear from you about the idea of requiring proof of vaccine in order to go to a bar, a restaurant, a gym, or entertainment venue indoors. It's something that Chicago is going to be implementing. It's something that Cook County is going to be implementing after the start of the year, I believe January 3rd. But what about here locally in Springfield? When we chatted with Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder yesterday, he laid out what his thoughts were. But let's get into this. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here, live and local, on the WMAY morning news feed on this wet Tuesday, December 28th, with a high of 45. Wind gusts could be up to 30 miles an hour. I just looked back at one of my Facebook memories from 6 years ago, and Shirley Megan, driving into work this morning, remembers what happened 6 years ago. She was at work while I was at home watching the backyard fill up with water, and that filled up our basement. My gosh, that was a nightmare. No question about it. But I want to get into this with your phone calls at 217-629-7970. So President Joe Biden yesterday having a call with governors, he said that there is no federal solution to the COVID-19 pandemic. This after he ran on opposing then President Donald Trump in his management of the COVID-19 virus, and Biden indicating that he was going to get rid of it and he was going to control it. But now he says there's no federal solution, and he says that this gets to be resolved by the states. So Governor J.B. Pritzker was part of that call, and then later the governor took to a news conference up in Chicago where he talked about increasing the availability of booster shots, increasing the availability of testing. But the governor also discussed, when he was questioned, what he would like to see happen with local municipalities and this idea of requiring vaccine proof indoors. Here's some of what the governor had to say yesterday when asked about that.
Well, what we've done is to make sure that people know that getting vaccinated and getting boosted and wearing your mask is the best thing that you can do to keep yourself safe. People obviously should take extra care. You heard Dr. Ezike talk about the fact that people who are getting together and think that everything is safe, everybody can take their masks off. Omicron and Delta are coming to your party. So you need to think twice about how many people will be gathered together, keeping social distancing if you're at a party, and if you can't, leave.
Governor, the General Assembly begins.
So he then later talked about how it's important that local municipalities make these decisions when it comes to the COVID-19 variant and how to manage that. And here's the governor talking about how he wants this to be up to local officials. Dan, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Well, we'll get to that. What about local officials here in Springfield? When we talked with Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder yesterday, I asked him what he would plan on doing when it comes to the vaccine requirements that we see in Chicago, for instance. Here's some of what the mayor had to say yesterday.
Well, I think the restaurants and other establishments been hurt enough by the pandemic. What we're trying to do is work our way through it. And so I don't see that forthcoming. I believe, we're at a point in time where people should understand what we're all up against. I encourage everybody to get their vaccine and boosted if they haven't done so. And if you haven't, wear your mask when you're around others and be conscientious of what we're doing. But really for businesses, that's the other side of the coin that can be great impact to any community. It can be devastating when businesses close. The mental health and everything else that goes along with it. So I think we're at the point where people can make that decision themselves and be conscientious and move forward with the proprietors of the establishments.
So again, your ideas and thoughts on this, vaccine requirements indoors, 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. I want to hear from you about if this is a good or bad idea. Are you planning on going to Chicago at all to show your vaccine status in order to go eat at a restaurant or to go into an indoor entertainment venue? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
No, and I hope and pray that someday we can all get the kahunas
to revolt against these people. And then they can all go to their little parties and they're all their get-togethers. They don't need the mask because they're much smarter than we are. Blah, blah, blah. I'm so sick and tired of this. People, wake up. Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate the call. 217-629-7970. Your thoughts about requiring proof for vaccine to get indoors in Chicago. It's going to be implemented. Now, I saw a headline somewhere where businesses are asking that the mayor and Cook County slow down on implementing this. And we've seen the implementation of it in New York where, you've got now... who's going to be policing this? Are you going to have an 18-year-old hostess tell a 60-year-old man that they can't come into a restaurant because they didn't show their vaccine status? What kind of problems is that going to create? 217-629-7970. Your thoughts on this?
Hey, Greg. My thoughts on this, I think it's a bunch of BS, number one. And I'm pretty sure, didn't the Germans try this at some point, 1930s, 1940s? I mean,
well, sir,
like
how dare you talk about World War II and what the Germans did? I mean, that's the response you'll get from people. Why dare make that connection?
Because that's what happened before. Show me your papers. Now I have to show you mine? No. This is America. As the caller before, it's true. A lot of America has lost the cojones, if you would, to stand up.
So do you feel that this is the line? Do you feel that this is the line that's going to be drawn here when it comes to?
I think so. I think people are finally going to say enough is enough.
Well, and I'm interested to see what the impacts are going to be on business. When I talked with Chicago State Representative LaShawn Ford last week about this, and we shared this with you. You can find that conversation through, just search out Bishop on Air, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, so on. You'll be able to find the links. But he said that he sees this as being something that's going to impact negatively the Black community in Chicago. And they're going to essentially be kept from going indoors to restaurants, bars, and gyms and entertainment facilities. And I think that that's a reality. And the discrimination there has got some really concerned. But you still have the advancement of this idea in Chicago and Cook County for proving vaccine status to eat at a restaurant or a bar or to go into a gym to work out to get more healthy. But you're going to have to show your vaccine status. And some people don't have the vaccine, either for, religious reasons or for medical reasons or merely because they just don't trust it. Regardless of whatever the science may say, that's their stance. And they're going to be discriminated against in Chicago and Cook County from taking part in what we thought was normal society just 2 years ago. Your thoughts on this? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Yeah, good morning, Greg, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. The thing that I look at is that they want us to wear the mask. They want us to get the vaccine. I got the vaccine way back, early fall, late summer. Anyhow, I've been fine through the whole thing, but I used to be heavy. I went on a super diet, started working out to get healthy. I lost the weight. It's been 2 years. You might have the governor's ear. How much weight has he lost in 2 years to try to get healthy, to make himself more resilient to this thing? And how much weight has all these other people? We should have the healthiest society that has ever been right now, simply for the fact that everybody's been telling it.
And I know that the question you're asking is in jest, but you're touching on something that sadly has not been part of this conversation. The conversation's been masks and vaccines. Therapeutics? Well, only if it's politically correct. And for whatever reason, I can't really wrap my head around it, why people pushed back against ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine so heavily on these cheap drugs that studies have shown early treatment, low dose helps prevent major sickness, but they pushed back against it for whatever reason.
Right. Well,
but there's been no focus on eating right, getting nutritious foods, exercising regularly, quitting bad habits, doing what you can to drop weight. People who are overweight are going to be impacted by COVID more. That's just a reality, just as those who are in congregate settings and those who are of advanced age. So, yeah, sadly, that's part of this equation that's just not been talked about too much. Appreciate the call. 217-629-7970. Good morning.
You notice when when the governor speaks, he picks his words very, very carefully. He doesn't say that being vaccinated slows down the spread of the virus. Wearing a mask slows down the spread of the virus. So what they're doing is they're discriminating against anybody that's not vaccinated, because all they're doing is protecting themselves. And he says this every single time. Wearing a mask, getting vaccinated, getting boosted is a good way to protect yourself. You're still going to spread the disease to somebody else. So really what they should be doing is they should be testing everybody that's vaccinated, because they're more asymptomatic than anyone else.
Well, and the CDC just changed their guidance, essentially saying that, yeah, even if you had 2 doses of a vaccine and you get COVID, you'll still have to quarantine. So they've updated their guidance, which, I mean, honestly, have fun reading through that guidance, because you'll have to have a couple of different calendars out and check marks, and then you'll have to, compare it with this, that, and the other. It's just, when are we going to take our health into our own hands and focus on getting more healthy and dropping weight, eating healthy foods, having healthy habits, not sitting around all day staring at computer screens, actually having face-to-face conversations, and ensuring that our kids in school can actually learn how to speak properly by seeing their teachers' faces. Let alone their peers' faces. In other states, they're not forcing their kids to wear masks, but in Illinois we are, and look at all the COVID-19 that's spread all over the place, even with the masks and the vaccines. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. And something else, too, I want to get to after this call just briefly is to touch on what happened on this airplane, and I think it highlights something that we need to combat against, and I think all of the mandates and all the headlines and all the fear that's put out there helps promulgate this sentiment of, well, if I've got to wear the mask, then by golly, you have to wear the mask, and I'm going to punch and slap and scrape your face and spit in your face if you don't have a mask on. We saw that behavior displayed on a flight. It's pretty alarming, but we'll talk about that briefly here. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, good morning, Greg. If they're really serious about saving lives here in Illinois, instead of saying, show me your vaccination card, they should, and especially in Chicago, they should be saying, show me your hands so we can pat you down, make sure you don't have a gun, because that's taken more lives. Well, I don't know if more lives, but it's something that,
well, I think the gun violence in Chicago has cost more lives of small children than COVID has,
right.
I believe.
Maybe they should wear a mask. Maybe they should give them all vests.
Well, and that's again, I don't want to conflate issues here because the gun violence in Chicago obviously is a major problem, something that needs to be addressed, and COVID is totally separate from that. But I think you can make the point, and as you just did, there seems to be a mix of priorities, or a different elevation of some priorities over others. Last call here before we air some of this audio from this plane, and a woman losing her cool. Slapping, scraping, and spitting in somebody's face. You're on WMAY. Good morning.
So you were mentioning the other therapeutic medication. The big thing is that they're all generic.
Right. Yep.
That
yep.
is
out of they are out of, what is it, trademark? So
yes.
they're widely available. They're super duper cheap. And they're used around the world with high efficacy against all kinds of other viruses and parasites. But for whatever reason, Dr. Fauci said no. He said no, and then everybody parroted that.
Pharmacies, the pharmaceutical companies, they're not getting any money out of it. So they're not going to promote something that they're not getting a piece of the pie.
You mean to tell me that people have motivations to make more money? Really?
Most definitely. It's healthcare. Healthcare is always, the motivation is making money off of, unfortunately, sick people.
Appreciate the call, and I think some of the recent literature on this is pretty eye-opening. And I know he's been a gadfly of the pharmaceutical industry for quite some time, but Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, talking about Bill Gates as well. There's a lot of documented evidence in there that there's some serious behind-the-scenes wrangling to control the narrative, to censor people, to censor medications, to censor doctors. And it's an issue that he highlights in his book. All right, I want to air some of this for you. This airplane, I did edit it, of course, because, well, it's got humanity at its worst. Let's just put it that way. So caution to you. I did drop all of these particularly harmful words, but it still shows just how how asinine people have gotten when it comes to trying to have some kind of control over somebody else. This is on a plane headed towards Atlanta on December 23rd. Video from Atlanta Uncensored gets out and goes viral. Here's some of how that video goes on this flight where a woman loses her cool.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, put your mask on. Who invited you to come
eating and I can
drink your ass up? Don't you dare talk to me like that. You stand your ass up. Stand your ass up.
sit down, Karen.
Karen?
Karen,
No.
sit down.
Sir.
Sit down, Karen.
Sit down.
You're the
Oh, no,
I
you're
got
the...
Do you want the police to meet you on the ground?
What about him?
Mask up. Now.
Mask up.
Put your mask up.
Mask up. Tell him to mask up. Tell him
You
to
got
mask
your
up.
mask down.
Sir,
Did you call me a bitch?
Yes, I did.
stop it again.
She slaps him,
That's assault.
grabs him,
As soon as we get in Atlanta,
brings her hand back.
Karen.
She spits in his face,
Now you double going to jail.
then scratches his face as people are trying to drag her down the aisle.
Sit down, Karen. Sit down, Karen. Sit down. Look, she punched me.
Put your mask on. Tell him to put his mask on. Put your mask
Punched
on.
me. She scratched my face. I want her to
Put your mask on. Put your mask
put
on.
yours on.
Well, put my mask on.
So you can see it's gotten to a level here of just ridiculousness, and we need to do everything we can to combat against that. And I think one thing that you could take away from a recent cartoon was South Park. And if you haven't seen the most recent South Park, I would encourage you to go check it out, because the message at the end is, listen, we just need to cut everybody some slack. And there's a clip in there of two guys standing next to each other. One's got his mask around his chin. The other one doesn't have a mask on, and they have this conversation.
I shouldn't have yelled at you for not wearing a mask. I just didn't understand. Well, maybe I should have worn a mask more often, but... No, I was being all high and mighty about it.
So maybe we can just cut each other some slack. Maybe that's a good takeaway. All right, it is the WMAY Morning News.